Well, Happy New Year to the Braver Than the Rest listening audience, live from today was beautiful, sunny Bristol, Tennessee, Northeast Tennessee, in the mountains where everybody owns an AR-15.
Darn tootin'.
Braver Than the Rest, your favorite podcast. And boy, tonight, do we start off unpacking some amazing things. I believe 2024 is going to be... If I was looking at a Chinese zodiac right now, right? You know how you used to go to the Chinese restaurants and you sit down and they'd give you the calendar with all the spirit animals on it?
Yeah, well, yeah,
or whatever,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, I know
Like,
what you're talking about.
You know, the
more
year
or
of
less,
the.
yeah.
This would be like the year of the. You know, they have like the year of the rat. One of them's a rat, tiger, dragon. I would call this the weasel. The year of the weasel.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what I would.
Or
call
last
it.
year was the year of the weasel.
Is it? I don't know what it.
Yeah, I don't follow that stuff.
Yeah.
2024, and
It's going to be nuts. I mean, it started off crazy. You were saying it before the show when we were kind of going through the notes and going through all the stuff we're going
day
to talk
one,
about.
Japan.
Yeah.
And then how about the plane crash in Japan? Did you see the footage of that passenger plane that comes in to land and it hits a Coast Guard plane on the tarmac, on the runway, that was loaded with aid that was to be flown to the victims of this earthquake. And it engulfed a giant, like 747 in flames.
No, I didn't see that
like
one.
All 300 passengers were able to get off in time, and then it was just like kaboosh.
Wow.
Kaboom.
Well, it started off crazy, and, we're not really necessarily talking about it tonight, but we've got, obviously it's election year, and so things are going to be nuts because of that. Then we're going to be inundated with a lot of stressful content. But, I guess kind of what we were alluding to before we started the show is like, it's part of it, and we just have to be aware of it.
Yeah. We have to be aware. It's part of it.
Yeah. It's part of living on planet Earth right now.
That's right. And I love that we serve a God who knows the end from the beginning.
Yeah.
That's the thing we have to remember. He knows. He knows what's going on. He knows the end from the beginning. But in the light of all of those things, we picked up, there was a clip I was watching that Dr. Briscoe sent me.
Yeah.
Of an update, a prophecy update with Brandon Holthouse, who's a phenomenal pastor, phenomenal preacher. If you ever want to listen to some really deep teaching, I would encourage you to look him up. But he was with Tom. I can't even think of his name now.
Let me look it up here.
He was with somebody. How's that? He was with somebody, and
take your word for it.
But they played this clip, and I want to play just a portion of this clip for you all. It's Roseanne Barr talking to Tucker Carlson, and I want to just set the groundwork for this because I think this is kind of fascinating and important. Neither one of these two are biblical scholars by any stretch of the imagination. I don't call myself a biblical scholar. I read it all the time and study it, but to make that your claim, that's a
well, and I think like we were talking about, Tucker is Episcopalian. I mean, he's at least that's how he was raised. I don't know where he sits right now, denominationally. Did I say that right?
Yeah, you nailed it. Almost. I mean, you nailed it eventually.
Shoots, he scores.
Yeah.
And so but he has become more. It seems like he's become more in tune with his faith over the years. Especially since he's been out of mainstream media and kind of on his own, and he's.
But I think what we're seeing, and this is...
And Roseanne Barr, she's Jewish, I believe. So.
It's fantastic to bring this up because you're seeing two celebrities who are beginning the discussion just by looking at the world that we're in, right?
Yeah.
They're beginning the discussion by referring to things biblical.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's not something that's going to catch a real major foothold with that community, those celebrities who are in the media, in the world, seeing what's going on. And at some point, you have to wonder, when is the light bulb, unless they're completely batting for the enemy's team,
right?
Unless they're completely in the tank, at some point, I would imagine they're all going to go, wait a minute, this isn't okay. This isn't right. There's something amiss here.
Yeah. I think there's going to be I mean, you could say an awakening. I'm trying to put it in. Well, I guess an awakening would be the best way to put it, because the level of social pressure, the level of hardship. We talked about one of the things we were talking about tonight. People telling us what they're going to do with water shortages and what we went through with COVID, and the authoritarianism is eventually going to push people to say, enough is enough, and where am I going to find peace and solace? And there is a place to find peace and solace, and it's in the Bible.
That's right.
And that, I think that's going to, and I hate to say that the pain is going to bring people closer to God, but oftentimes that's where people find God.
I don't know about you, but that's how I found God going through my lowest point more so than any other time. I don't know too many people that find God when they're on the mountaintop.
No. It's very hard to do. It's very hard to do.
But let's go ahead and out of the mouth of babes, spiritually, so to speak, let's go ahead and listen to what these two have to say concerning what we are up against currently in our world.
Well, that's why they don't believe in God. That's
how
you can
they think
tell.
they are gods. Of course, God doesn't apologize. In Job, which I just read, God makes his deal with literally with the devil and afflicts this guy called Job, and Job's like, "Hey, God, like, why did you do this?" And God's answer is basically, "I'm God. I don't need to explain."
That's a great
God's
answer.
the only one
really
who
is.
doesn't need to explain or apologize. He's
That's
the
right.
only one.
That was it.
And the people who run our society consider themselves gods, and that's why they're not explaining.
Boy, they do. They
apologizing.
don't think they have to.
Oh, I've
They
noticed.
don't think. I think I was talking to somebody and they said to me, "Well, they think they're more than human."
Oh, obviously.
Yeah, I go. They're not even human, because humans care about their environment and their neighbors, and humans care about other people's children.
Of course.
And humans care about living things.
Yes.
But they don't do any of that. And he goes, because they think they're more than human.
Oh, I noticed.
They
That's why
think
they
they're
want to live forever.
royals.
That's
they think
a great
they're
point.
like royals in a
Why they want
rarefied
to live forever.
sphere of DNA or something above us. Like, did they come from another planet? When
I
you
can't
hear
speculate
people
on
talk,
that.
I can't either. But
This is the podcast to speculate on it, though. if you
well,
guys want
because
to.
some
Feel free.
people say, a lot of religious people, they're into some deep rabbit holes of things, and I don't know.
Well, you can see why they are, though. I mean, speaking for myself, I have no idea what's going on. I don't know if this is the Nephilim, right?
I was going to say.
I don't.
Oh,
I
God,
know.
Here we go.
Yeah.
That's what I said.
No. Let's
So
just say.
there you
I-
go. There you have it. Out of the mouth of two people that aren't researched, that are just taking things at face value. They recognize that this is what's happening in our world, in our society. And I love that Roseanne's even like, they don't care about the environment.
Yeah.
And that makes, I'm sure, people listening to her, and this is a major podcast, right?
Yeah.
People listen to that, and the green, the greenbacks of the world get a nervous twitch. How could you say you don't care about the environment? We drive an electric car.
Right, right.
But it's like, you don't get it. You've fallen for the narrative. They don't care about the environment. What they're doing to cultivate and harvest all the resources to make this electric car is killing the planet faster than if we went back to burning trees and coal every day. You know, like they're not actually being truthful about any of this.
Yeah. And I think that a lot of this stuff is it's more proof to us that this is spiritual warfare, right?
Absolutely.
It's
this
200%.
is a spiritual thing that we're dealing with.
It's absolutely, it's undeniably spiritual because, I think it was, oh my gosh, the author, C.S. Lewis. And C.S. Lewis would say that, and I'm going to completely botch how he says it.
Paraphrase it.
But
Just
I'll
don't
paraphrase.
do air quotes.
I won't
'Cause
do
then
air
if they
quotes.
see air quotes, they go, "Oh, he's
Oh,
quoting
he's
him, but
quoting
he's
him,
really
yeah.
not."
But right. But human beings are wired to be spiritual, and they are wired to believe in a higher power.
It's truth.
Because even when you talk about the the climate activists and all those people that are saying we're the Bill Gates of the world, it is religious to them. Their devotion to it, because Bill Gates is willing to sacrifice human life for it.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And the authorities are willing to sacrifice human life. You listen to Jane Goodall, who is this environmentalist and is put on a pedestal as an environmentalist, said that if I could push a button and I could take, I forget how many people, 7 billion people off the planet with no pain and just peacefully, I would do it. That level of sacrifice is only at a spiritual level. And so they are replacing God with what we've talked about before, worshiping the creation rather than the creator.
That's right. That's right. And the fact that they devalue the human life to a point where they put the creation above it.
Yes.
And not even consider that part of the creation is the human life. I mean, if they really looked at this as the whole package, right?
Yeah.
You know, we're going to kill the cattle because of the gas they because of cow gas, right? So we need to slaughter the cattle. Well, so you're willing to sacrifice one part of creation for another.
Or I'll go even further and say that we are willing to genetically modify the cattle
Yes.
in order to prevent them from expelling the gas.
Yes.
So
That's right.
Bill Gates, mRNA, and
Right.
and
That's
he was
right.
just doing a study not too long ago, was touting the fact that, we're going to stop cow farts so that,
They have 7 stomachs.
what?
Yeah.
I've never cut open a cow. I've cut open deer and other
Yeah,
things.
they
but-
they digest and digest and digest and regurgitate and digest, and like it's not just a simple we're gonna just give them some whatever gas X or whatever.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna try to genetically modify something that God has created to a point that is so beyond us. I mean, like the fact that they're able to operate the way that they do is just amazing.
Well, and to the point that Tucker made, which was this is why they want to live forever. Transhumanism is, I mean, we won't talk about the politics. Jared Kushner, who was in the Trump administration, he was given this long talk. It was the last one I listened to, which
Sorry.
is why I'm bringing it up.
Let me
But-
correct myself. They have 4 stomachs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, really 1 stomach in 4 sections, but it's really 4 stomachs.
Okay.
We'll say it
Yeah,
that way.
fair enough. And, they're talking about, the first person or the person, there is someone alive today who's going to be the first person to live to 150 or 160 or whatever. And it's all about this inability to let go of the life that God gave us and to play God and to try to extend our lives beyond what,
Right,
you know what I'm saying?
part of that
and
is
live forever is what they're looking
because-
for. This is a search for immortality.
because of the drive to erase history. Right, they can't believe that people have lived for hundreds of years in the past.
Yeah, Methuselah. Jared was the second oldest person in the Bible. There you go.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. There you go. So you look at that and you go, okay, we're trying to reinvent the wheel that God already invented. He invented us to do that. He
Yeah.
invented us to stay alive forever, but we screwed it up. We
Yeah,
screwed it up. And if you want the full story, you read Genesis and, read it slowly and carefully. It's not a story. It's his story. It's
Yeah.
his story of, even all the way down to the union of Adam and Eve being symbolic of Christ taking his bride, right? The Adam who was empowered and endued with all things that God had. He was the son. He was God's son in some regards, right? He created him in his image. And when he took Eve, breath of my breath, flesh of my flesh, bone of my bones, right? When he takes Eve out of Adam and Adam and Eve become that one flesh, it's all it is a forecast to what Christ is doing and has done, coming for his bride and cleansing his bride. And, so the whole thing from beginning to end, it speaks to Jesus. It speaks to what the goodness of God. We were created to live for a very long time.
Right.
In fact, we were created to live forever. Our bodies are made to rejuvenate. Sin entered the world and changed the pattern.
Yeah.
That is in our DNA now. And what they're trying to do through CRISPR and everything else is to reverse that so that, just like it says in the word, we can be like gods, right? We can be like God. No, you can't.
Nope.
Not a chance. And I
No.
think that makes him a little bit angry.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah.
And-
Well, makes who?
God.
Oh, God. Yeah.
A little bit. And, they come out with, I believe, a nefarious plot to ruin humanity and get rid of a giant portion of humanity. And it's working. We're seeing it working. In fact, China, we'll never actually know what's going on in China. We never will. But last year at this time, 2023, first week in 2023, China reported a massive amount of celebrities,
Oh yeah.
politicians. Guess what happened again this week?
Same thing.
Same exact thing. Same exact thing. In fact,
Was it this one?
yes.
Yeah.
This
okay.
is the one.
Here, I'll go ahead.
Yep.
And share
So
that
China
with everybody.
reports a wave of sudden deaths among public figures in December. And I want to share this with you because I think this is kind of important. Now, remember, China is our, our unibrow baby on The Simpsons.
I don't remember that
You
one.
remember Maggie Simpson had that baby that would go in front of the house every now and then with a unibrow, and that was like her enemy. She would just look at it and be like, "Oh, that's my." You know.
Vaguely. I didn't watch a whole lot of Simpsons.
Okay, anyway,
I know.
some of you do, but they are.
If y'all remember that out there, by the way, put it in the comments.
They're our rival, right? They're the only thing on Earth right now that is a threat
Yeah.
to some extent. You know, people, Russia. You know, Russian interference. Russia's not a blip on the radar compared to China.
No.
And if you think about it, how many of your home appliances were made in Russia,
Yeah. No.
right? How many of those home appliances have a chip in them that was manufactured by China?
Yeah.
Right?
Or in Taiwan.
Right. Your TV, which was made in China, is listening to you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. No. 100%.
Siri, listening to you, made in China. They're a huge threat. But just listen to
Well, and
the-
TikTok. I mean, they have made.
Oh, yeah, TikTok
You can't disregard TikTok because they have that's if your kids have TikTok, by the way, and I'm going to go to myself for this one. If your kids have TikTok on their phones, then those devices read the terms of service. It is absolutely horrifying that they can connect to everything inside of your house and everything connected to your Wi-Fi network
everything.
because of TikTok.
Yeah. They listen to you while you sleep. Thanks,
Oh yeah,
Thanks,
They're-
Alexa.
That's the most massive data collection.
It's the biggest grab ever.
Unbelievable.
And now Chinese nationals are coming across our southern border at an unprecedented rate.
Oh yeah.
Some in I want to say Senate have called it an invasion.
Yeah.
Because these are military age men coming over.
Oh yeah. I'm going to make the quote.
Go for it, yeah.
Go ahead. I don't
No,
wanna-
you go. You
okay.
go. I want the quote.
When-
Air quotes or quote? Like,
No, this is my quote. It's my version of the quote.
yeah. C.S. Lewis said,
See, well, he didn't say this.
quote, through me.
When men flee, they take their families. When men go to war, they go alone.
And there you go. So they're here alone.
They're here alone.
Yep.
Military age males, chock
Bunch
full of them.
Jet Lees over here, ready to kickbox us all.
I didn't see any swords, but they'll get one.
So
There's
yeah,
pawn
that's
shops
right.
on
You
every
better
corner
believe
in
it.
this
And they don't
country.
background check for no swords. I've checked.
I know.
So at any rate, for this nation that is like trying and striving to be us, right? To steal all of our technology, to do all this stuff. I mean, I love the fact that like DeSantis, this isn't a DeSantis plug, but I love the fact that he says if you're a Chinese national, you can't own land in Florida.
Yeah.
You know, you can't. I mean, that's how it should be.
Well, I think he'll allow Chinese, like if you're a if you're a Chinese national. See, if you're coming in to buy for
If
a
you-
company.
Yeah. So
Yeah, you're right.
If you're here, if you're doing it right, you move here. Yeah, you can own land. You're here.
Yeah.
Right? You're trying to make a new start, but if you're there, you can't own stuff here, and that's great. That's how it should be.
Exactly.
So, but for a country that is desperately trying to infiltrate the U.S., to grab our technology, to grab parts of our markets, to grab all the stuff, number one, they had a horrible report on the very opening of January 1st. They went into their economy is in trouble, right? He said it, like their economy is in trouble. Then
President Xi said it.
Yeah. Then this comes out. Top experts in the aviation astronautics, in chip manufacturing, drone technology, on and on it goes. These top public officials, these top celebrities, these top minds in science are all done.
Yeah.
At the end or the beginning of this year, 2023 in December, in January through January, I guess 3rd, they're just belly up, 39 years old, 40 years old, 52 years old, all dying. And two things come to my mind. Number one is that's intentional.
Yeah, I've thought that,
Like-
or wondered that.
Like somebody over there, there's a group over there that's knocking these scientists and these people out, right? That is my first thought. Is like they've got Mission Impossible over there with Ethan, and he's going around jumping out of buildings and slipping a roofie in a drink, and that's it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was my first thought. My second thought was this. This happened a year ago too.
Yeah.
The population of China is 91% vaccinated
Yep.
and boosted. And they're seeing an unprecedented amount. And this is the people that we know. This is the game, right? We don't actually know because China does not report accurately, right?
No, they never did. Even when they said we have zero, they had days where they had 0 COVID deaths.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, that's not a thing in a
Well,
country with 1.5 billion people or
right,
whatever
they
they've
just
got. That's not a thing.
They had 0.0000000. They just forgot to add the 6 in front of
Right,
it, right?
yeah.
Like they just whoopsie. I mean, so anyway, all of these people, especially like this is the one that really got me. December 15th, the sudden death of Tang Zhaohu, the founder of SenseTime. A leading artificial intelligence scientist, was among the most sensational news. SenseTime is known as China's AI unicorn. It's the driving force behind the CCP's, listen to this, ready? Skynet project.
Okay, I'm glad you said that because when I was reading this article, I was like, oh no, that's foreshadowing right there.
Do they not?
You know what? We're going to call it Skynet.
Right. Do they not see?
I was like, you have got to be kidding
And
me.
you know,
Skynet?
right now, there's somebody over there that's wringing their hands laughing. Like, we'll call it Skynet.
Why
Nobody
in the
will ever
world?
see this coming.
No, they're not trying to dominate the world. We're calling our AI program Skynet.
But so the founder of Skynet passes away, right?
I hope everybody out there, by the way, got that. That's a Terminator reference.
Yeah, or not the founder. Sorry, was he the founder? Yeah, he was the founder of the leading firm of AI development in software. And here's what Skynet was going to do. It develops AI-powered facial recognition for banks and police departments in China. Give me my Minority Report.
Yeah.
That's what that is.
Now, I will say that their facial recognition. I was watching. It was a clip that was posted. Somebody hit. I say a clip. It was a clip of a newscast where they were talking about neighborhoods being fenced in with those like these heavy steel gates on them. And when you walk up to it, you have to look. Straight up Minority Report stuff. It scans your face and your eye, like retinal scan. Then it allows you in. And this is how they manage people with social credit scores. So if you say something bad about the CCP, if you don't pay a bill, if you don't do something, they will keep you out of your neighborhood, out of your house, and say, nope, you're banned from your house for 24 hours.
Wow. Well, it's kind of,
Can't come in.
It's kind of like the politicians over in England right now who can't get a bank account.
Oh, I didn't hear about that.
Yeah. Wasn't it Blair or one of the guy that did Brexit?
Come
on.
Nigel Farage.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can't find a bank. His
Wow.
bank gave him his money back, but said you can't bank here anymore. And everywhere he goes, they're not letting him bank there.
And this is CBDC. That's what it's gonna be even easier with CBDC because they'll just take the money. They'll just freeze it.
Well, they can't. Yeah.
And they did this in Canada with the truckers, who were trying to, who were protesting.
Yeah.
They froze their bank accounts. People missed, alimony payments and child support payments and rent and mortgages and, couldn't feed their families and all these things. And I use those examples because that's what RFK Jr. used when he was talking about it.
Right. All because they wanted to get the product to the people that needed them.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, you think about this. You want to control how a society operates, control their food. right?
Yeah.
If we can control your food, we can control you.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And so in Canada, the supply shortage, the
Yep.
food shortage, the everything that they did that intentionally. It wasn't about COVID.
yeah,
It was about control.
yeah.
And we saw some of it here, not like there, certainly.
No,
But you know, the supply chain shortage that we didn't need to have.
well, the quarantines when they were quarantining vessels off the coast of California,
Right.
that was, I mean, obviously in hindsight, completely unnecessary.
Totally.
But you didn't have the people to run the ports,
Right.
And so they couldn't offload the vehicle or offload the cargo container ships, and
That's
then
right.
we don't get the supplies, and so there's shortages. And so this is the term I consistently use is I vary on it, but it's orchestrated chaos and orchestrated destruction of our republic.
Okay.
I mean,
so
this-
what do you waffle between the two?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of go either way, but it's designed deconstruction of our republic in that if they make people desperate enough,
I think I saw a movie by Michelle and Barack Obama that talked about that being
yeah,
part of the agenda, right?
Yeah.
Of like if we can disrupt stuff and get the public to turn on each other,
yeah,
right? I mean, shut the power off.
And
Watch
if
what happens.
yeah. Well, turn the power off with water, like that clip I was telling you about the lady from the World Economic
Oh,
Forum.
do you have that clip?
Yeah, I do have
You got to
that one.
play that clip. This is these people. I look at this group, and I just go, they all need Jesus.
That's exactly what they need.
They just need Jesus. This is the devil at
Yeah.
work. Go ahead and play
That's
it.
also, of course, true with COVID, right? We are all only as healthy as our neighbor is on our street, in our city, in our region, in our nation, and globally. And did we solve that? Like, did we actually manage to vaccinate everyone in the world? No. So highlighting water as a global commons and what it means to work together and see it both out of that kind of global commons perspective, but also the self-interest perspective, because it does have that parallel. It's not only important, but it's also important because we haven't managed to solve those problems which had similar attributes. And water is something that people understand. You know, climate change is a bit abstract. Some people understand it really well. Some understand it a bit. Some just don't understand it. Water, every kid knows how important it is to have water. When you're playing football and you're thirsty, you need water. So there's also something about really getting citizen engagement around this and really, in some ways, experimenting with this notion of the common good. Can we actually deliver this time in ways that we have failed miserably other times? And hopefully.
So
What is she referring to about failed miserably? That
the fact that they couldn't get everybody vaccinated, that not everybody submitted, we didn't all take a knee and bow down to what they told us to do. So now they're saying, well, disease didn't do it, so now we try it with water.
okay.
So with water shortage, because you can live a while without food, you cannot live long without water. And what people have to understand is they telegraph themselves. They are not shy anymore. I've watched dozens of Klaus Schwab videos, and he says all the quiet stuff out loud. The guy, he doesn't hold back anymore, and they don't have to hold back because they have. I mean, definitely nearly half of the American population who goes right along with it.
Yep.
Because along with worshiping the creation instead of the creator, they believe that the government is the ultimate authority in their lives, not God.
Right.
And they bow down to those people. It's the human need for some type of authority in your life. Like everybody needs an authority figure in your life. I don't
Right.
care
Which is why so many of us men get married
Right.
because
I couldn't handle my own life, so I got married.
I got married because I need an authority figure. And
My wife's a good authority figure.
yeah.
But yeah, they just replace God with government, and so now they're like, how can we get all those people who would not bend a knee to?
But even her verbiage, like her choice, the way, first of all, listening to them speak makes me angry.
Yeah,
I don't know how else to put it, but angry. And I mean, growing up in the Midwest, I took meteorology when I was in high school. It was offered. It was great. It was an easy class, so we all took it.
Yeah.
But
that's a cool class to take.
Isn't it great? So
Yeah.
we learned all about cumulonimbus clouds and whatever. And there was one thing that was really interesting that stuck with me, and that is water evaporates to form clouds and it eventually rains.
Yeah.
The water that goes up
Comes back down.
comes back down,
Right.
right? And so we can sit back and say, well, it's because we've used it, it's polluted, it's toxic, it's this, it's that. But I've got a life straw. You know, there are ways around that. The water itself isn't disappearing.
No. However,
It's
and I
just
need,
going to a different place on the globe, right?
yeah.
Like there's elevations that are like the water levels are changing in places.
But I'm going to pull this up from, this is from NIH, by the way.
Oh,
the
I
impact of coronavirus SARS-CoV-2 in water.
Okay.
So if,
The water that they were putting COVID into.
well, so there's,
Do we
so
want to get? Do
basically-
we want to get into that?
Oh, well, what I was going to say was a tainted water supply, or even the psychological impacts of a tainted water supply. What does that do to people? And the second part is Berkey water filters. I don't know if you've heard of them.
No.
They had so Berkey water filters are a very, very good water filter, and they had a filter system that would filter out any viruses and other things like that. So it's on top of bacteria and all that, they would
Okay.
filter out viruses. And just last year, like a few months ago, actually, the federal government outlawed them. So you could not buy them anymore.
Why?
They called them a pesticide. They weren't. They're basically a really high-tech charcoal filter, but they filtered out so because it filtered out viruses. There's some, a scientist out there you can
Sure.
talk about it, but they said nope, because it does this, we have to consider this a pesticide, so you can no longer buy it. And at the time, it was the only one on the market that would do it.
Huh.
So they're like, no, and this is around the same time that people were talking, and this wasn't, and again, the COVID in the water supply wasn't just right-wing conspiracy theorist stuff.
No.
This was in some mainstream outlets talking about the increase of, COVID in the water supply. How it does that, I do not know, because it's chlorinated water and it's got all manner of other stuff in it, but it's not a conspiracy theory.
We'll never know. Well, the good news, bad news is since COVID didn't work, we're gonna shift the narrative into something else, right? So we know that COVID didn't work. We know that COVID's not going to work because the vast majority of Americans are against the booster at this point. And it's almost like they dropped it too late because we're starting to see the unraveling of what this repeated booster shots and the repeated tampering with our DNA is doing to people when you've got, athletes dying on the field, when you've got, and nobody seems to have a number for this.
Yeah.
Nobody can seem to go, hey, that blood clot is, 4 miles long.
Yeah.
But we're not calling it what it is. We still don't want to call it what it is.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and here's my other fear, because as this year goes on and, we get into scare after scare, because they do this in election years. It's just a foregone conclusion that they're going to generate some type of hysteria that they can use to manipulate us. That's what they do. And if it's something medical, our medicine in America is the best in the world, above and beyond. And yet there was a certain amount of distrust, a great deal of mistrust, that's now been placed in our, in the medical field.
which isn't their fault.
It's not their fault. No, it's not.
Yeah.
But because they, I think we talked about it before. Doctors had a trust in, pharmaceutical companies and Western medicine
Yep.
and all the FDA requirements and the stringent guidelines that they had. And now all of a sudden that is shown to be a bad thing. And
That
so,
trust is gone.
yeah, it's
Completely gone.
and it'll be to our detriment.
Yeah, it will. And there are people that will die of heart attacks and will die of things just because they're like, I ain't going to the doctor. A bunch of liars, right?
right.
Which the doctors aren't. The doctors, and I think a lot of doctors have stood up and taken notice too, where they're like, okay, wait a minute.
Oh yeah.
I'm not just going to take your word for it. I want to see the data.
So maybe it's a good thing.
Yeah. So, but here's getting back to the China thing, because I think we can talk about China for a long time. They are people say, well, China's not in the Bible. Okay, that's true, except not really. I mean, when you look at the Word of God, the kings from the East represent China. We know that they partner with Gog and in the end, they partner.
So Gog and Magog, right?
Yeah, well, Gog and Magog. Yeah, same. Gog's the guy, Magog's the place, right? So they partner with Gog. They come against Israel, and it's the kings from the East. And I think it's fascinating because China has got a lot of tentacles. They're like a giant octopus all over the globe, suffocating the globe. And just this past right before the turn of the year, Italy pulled out of this thing called the Belt and Road Initiative. And if you don't know anything about it, you're not alone, because I didn't really know anything about it either. Nobody's talking about this really. But China is desperately trying to buy up and invest in infrastructure and other things around the globe, in a sense, to make a belt around the globe of influence, because China's true agenda is world dominance. That's it. They're all about the land grab. They're all about the power grab. And they want to spread their influence as far as they possibly can. And Jared has pulled up this graph that we have here of the belt. And if you look at the reach of China, they're soon to be, well, they are. The sun never goes down.
Yeah.
On their England in 2024, what England was in the 1700s, right? The empire never stops.
Yeah.
Their influence is, I mean, look at Europe. Look at the
all
influence.
Eastern Europe and all. Yeah. Yep. And this is trillions of dollars, so they've invested a great deal in it. And China's one of those interesting things. They still are vulnerable to a certain degree, because China has been printing money like it's going out of style. Like they have, they've got a money problem similar to ours.
Yeah.
And the fight is really about who has the least terrible money problem, right? And so that's kind of China's vulnerability, I believe. Our vulnerability is that, because we are obviously the closest competitor to them, is that we're diverting all of our energy into other things. We're diverting it into the southern border. We're diverting it into and focusing on silly things when we've got this, massive influence that's got hundreds, 100 countries, 100 and I forget the number, countries that are on board with this new Spice Road or new Spice Road.
Yeah, well, yeah,
That's
that's what it is.
Yeah.
I don't know why we've called it the Belt and Road Initiative, but it's exactly what it is. It's like the spice trade of old, right?
Yeah.
Like they control the market, they control all the countries you see here. Their reach and their financial investment in these countries make these countries bow to them.
Yeah.
We can't do this without the Chinese, right? And yeah, go ahead.
Well, let's be honest that a lot of people want to, I say a lot of people, China wants to replace us as the world reserve currency. Like the death blow to America is
It's already, it's happening, right?
Yeah. And so if they get more countries on board with China and it's, technically still growing economy, then, this is doing nothing but strengthening them. Their biggest setback is that they're still a communist country that's dependent on, authoritarianism and all that stuff. And that doesn't have a very good track record. And I'm sure that with a lot of countries, they're like, yeah, this doesn't give me America is the most tried and true way to, hold value. But in America, again, with the southern border, but also with our printing problem, our deficit spending.
We're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Which brings us to this next point. Our closing segment of 2024 is the pending financial collapse, right?
Yeah.
Well, if China's saying that they've got this same problem, and for them to be honest about that, for them to be honest about anything, for them to admit a problem, it's probably much bigger than they're even letting on. I mean, am I correct in saying that? I mean,
Yeah, you never know.
so,
The-
but if, you know, if in 2024, the financial, I mean, if you look at the influence, if the finances of China struggle or go under, that's a lot of people that are going to be affected.
Yes, and and I'll be honest, it's worse if it happens to us, or if we when we experience, this is kind of how I equate it to people. If because of us being the world reserve currency, because of our massive influence across the globe, when we experience discomfort, other places experience famine.
What? That's right. Oh, and that was going to bring me to my next thing. All the areas, for the most part, in white, right, that are light color, and the very, very light color that are part of this Belt and Road Initiative are all affected by us directly.
Yeah.
Like if we go, they go that fast. And so between the two countries, you've got the entire globe engulfed financially based on two countries that most of the globe probably has never even been to, right?
Oh yeah.
So how easy would it be when you consider that this is what's happening? Two markets control everything. Very, very few, there's a select few that control the markets in both of those places that are working together. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is a complete recipe for disaster for the world, but a success for the people that want to collapse everything.
Yes.
They're there. They're getting there. And they're starting to forecast that this is going to happen, right? Oh, we're going to have some volatile markets. But no, that's part of the plan. They're going to do this intentionally.
Yeah.
And this is all part of their plan, so they think, but this is actually part of his plan because this has been scripted thousands of years ago that this is what's going to happen. And it blows my mind that this is what God said. People that don't believe in God, people that want nothing to do with God because they think they are God, right? Mm-hmm. Are playing right into his hands, not knowing that this is what they're doing. It's kind of like naming your AI company Skynet, right?
Yeah.
They had to know. I mean, you have to know. Or maybe not. Maybe it's just like, no, I think Skynet's a great name.
No, they knew.
Yeah, they had to know.
They knew.
So,
I think they just got Terminator over there. That's probably why.
yeah, it's probably brand new.
It's brand new.
Yeah, brand new. So, at any rate, I think, and it's not like Friends in the other episodes that they rip off from us either. I bet they got like the real Terminator just released with Arnold.
Oh,
Right. Like and Sarah Connor, right?
Right.
Just came out this year. But instead of Friends, they had Friends or whatever. Like, how they did, they copy us. And
Yeah,
it's
they
just
copy
not
it.
quite there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so anyway, I think it's what fascinates me about all this. And, it makes you angry to see all this stuff. It makes you angry in some regards to see them playing the whiny world card now and like all the different things they're doing. But it's like, no, this stuff, God said it was going to be like this well before you were on the scene, Klaus Schwab. Well before you were created, Bill Gates. Well before the people that are acting and playing right into the hand of God prophetically. Kind of like when Jesus was crucified. And I do struggle with this. I know Christians who blame the Jews for the death of Christ. And they're actually like angry about it. And I sit back and go, you're angry about that? They just saved the entire whole of humanity by saying, give us Barabbas. And you're angry about that. They played right into what God wanted them to do. So if you're going to be angry at the Jews, be angry at God because he created them to do that thing, to fulfill that purpose that Jesus needed to be sacrificed And the only group of people that could have done it, because they're the only group of people that would understand it to begin with, is the Jew. Nobody else had to have a sacrifice for sin like that. Nobody else had the actual handprint of Yahweh write them the rules and regulations. No other group of people had that. It had to be the Jews. They had to be the ones to do it. And so when people get all like, well, Jews killed Jesus, I'm like, yes, they did. But really, they didn't. You did. And so did I. And so did everybody that's ever had breath from Adam on. We did that. They were just the ones to say, now's the time. Now's the time. This is the guy. And without even recognizing him as Messiah, they recognized him as Messiah because they put him on the cross, just like was predicted. I mean, you can't write this down. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying.
So
Yeah.
you might deny him as Messiah, but you did the very thing that Messiah needed to have happen to him.
Right.
You know, like the very thing. And
Walked
so,
right into that one.
Yeah, you just kind of, I mean, so yeah, don't get angry at him.
Yeah.
It's almost like you wear a shirt that says,
just
thank the Jew. You know, thank a Jew today because you saved my life.
Yeah.
That's a people group that actually did what God needed them to do for that moment in time for the salvation of all humanity. And yes,
But unbeknownst to them.
but unbeknownst to them. So here's the other half. This group of people is doing the exact same thing. They're not Jewish, but they're doing the exact same thing, playing into the hand of God. It's all they're doing, because when you're controlled by the enemy he knows the end from the beginning because he's read it, right? And because he knows the author, he still can't help himself but to do what the author has said he's going to do, because the author is so much, you can't deny the author. Does this make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Like
Yeah.
he can't not walk as he can't walk any other way than what God allows him to walk. This is what we forget as Christians.
Yeah.
He can't do anything. I mean, look at the book of Job. It's a great example,
Yeah.
right? The only thing he did was what he was allowed to do. The only thing that Satan could do to Job was what God said, you know what? Okay. He doesn't have authority. He doesn't carry the big stick.
Yeah.
And all he can do at this point is to walk in whatever God allows him to try to, and his agenda is to try desperately. He tried once before to not allow Christ to come, and he's trying again not to allow Christ to come. And he's using the same tool, which is why I think God calls them his chosen people, because they're the ones that call on the Messiah to come. And if Satan can get rid of them, then they can't call him Messiah. So how do we do that? Through 99% vaccination rate, right?
Which is what they had, wasn't it?
Yeah. How do we do that? Oh, because that didn't work, right? Because they're still here. That didn't work. We're going to go ahead and try to turn the entire globe against them. And you wait, and mark my words, as this drags on, it's going to become exponentially worse for Israel. Exponentially worse. I mean, you've already had Turkey and, Syria and everybody, like, they're all kind of beating their chests and saber rattling. Russia is going to turn against them. They have to. In fact, I love the way that the Bible puts it. God says, I'm going to put hooks in their mouth, talking about these other nations, and I'm going to turn them toward Israel. They're not going to have a choice. They're going to go against Israel because God is going to make them go against Israel. He's going to put hooks in their mouth. And that's such a vivid picture.
Yeah.
I mean, we used to fish hook. Like my sister, she'd walk by and I'd fish hook her. You ever do that with your brothers?
Yeah.
Where you just
Oh,
grab
yeah. Oh,
and
yeah.
fish hook, just And that's what I picture it as. But God's not sneaking up behind you to do it, He doesn't have to. He's God. He just turns you. That's what's going to happen. 2024, maybe. I don't know. But the longer this thing goes on with Israel and Palestine, which is a total another joke,
Yeah.
it's Palestine. They don't even have the letter P in Arabic. Like you've been there, you know
I like
this.
I like the old.
They call it Palestine, and they
Yeah,
can't say
something like
"p." They don't have "p."
Yeah.
So, okay, go on.
No, I was going to say I like the old Palestinian flag, which is the Star of David in the field. Have you seen
don't
it?
even, yeah.
We'll get into that one.
We should try to pull it up though and close the show out with it, so everybody can see the original Palestinian flag.
Find it.
So I also got a great graphic today that I should have got to you because it's about the occupiers, and I just love man, it just wears me out, the stupidity of societies. And the Jewish population in 1948 versus 2023 in Egypt, they had, I got to turn up my volume here, my brightness. Egypt, this is 1948 versus 2023. In Egypt, they had 63,550 Jews. Today, 2023, they have 3.
Oh yeah.
40,000 Jews in Syria versus 0 Jews in Syria now. In Iran, they had 100,000. Today, 8,500. In Iraq, they had 150,000. Today, they have 4 Jews. In Lebanon, they had 20,000. Now they have 29. Morocco, 265,000. Today, they have 2,100. Yemen, 55,000 Jews. Today, they have 1. And to the Jew in Yemen, that Jew in Yemen.
Where are you hiding?
What are you doing?
Where
Yeah.
are you hiding?
And where are you hiding that you're actually showing up on a census?
Seriously, you don't fill that out.
Don't take the census.
That was somebody checking the wrong block.
So it had to be.
They checked the wrong block.
Algeria, 140,000. Today, 200.
Yeah.
Libya, 38,000. 0. In Tunisia, 105,000. Today, there's 1,000. In Gaza.
Yeah.
There was almost 8,000 Jews in Gaza. Today, there's none.
0. Yep.
Yeah. Arabs in Israel, 1948, 156,000. Today, 2.1 million.
Yeah.
Arabs in Gaza, in 1948, there were 80,000. Today, there's 2 million.
Yeah. They've grown exponentially over the past 20 years.
You tell me who the occupier is.
Yeah. And the level of vitriol around this topic, it makes it even.
Oh, it's more
Makes it
fun to talk.
clear.
It's more fun to talk about.
Well, it makes it clearer every day.
Yeah.
About the spiritual component to it, because I've got people. I think I said it on one of our other podcasts. I did a podcast on on why I believe we should provide some support to Israel. And I get comments, like I've had videos that have gotten a couple hundred comments actually. This one, I got absolutely spammed by anti-Semites. I'm talking, it was wild, and it was bad. To the point that it was so bad that I don't turn comments off on Continue Freedom, but I did on this one. I was like, okay, I'm not that's too far out there.
But and the problem with it is they don't go back far enough, right? The history matters. So we did an episode last 3 months ago, where we pulled up the settling of the Arab nations, right? So where they all gathered in one area, close in proximity to Israel, because they want to stay close to Israel. They're jealous of Israel, right? This is all part of Abraham. You go back. You got to go back.
Yeah.
And if you understand that spiritually, then there is no argument here. It's like this is not this is a non-issue. It's a non-argument. That was Israel there first? Israel has always been there.
Yeah.
And to argue that is to go against history and data.
Yeah.
And everything else. And you pulled up the Palestinian flag, right? The former Palestinian flag. I wonder why they're not using that now.
Yeah.
Right?
That was up until 19. There's actually a book in here. It was kind of wild. It was right after Hitler had been had gotten into office, and it was an old book that showed all the national flags. And when you got to Germany, you saw the swastika. when you got to Palestine, that was the flag you saw, or if it was actually a version of that one, still had the Star of David on it. Yeah. People have selective memory with this sort of stuff, and
Well, but
and that's not, Israel is not a perfect. They're not perfect in everything that they do.
No,
And
no nation is.
None. And so I like a lot of people think that they can do absolutely no wrong. No, they can, but we also have to be smart when we're talking about that conflict. Where are we getting the data for the Israelis? Where are we getting the data for the Palestinians? The Palestinians is coming from the Palestinian Authority. The Palestinian Authority is nothing but a propaganda machine. So that's not to say that, I never discount the civilians that have been killed, and it's horrific and it's sad because war is a terrible thing. But the level of destruction, you're really foolish if you take the first number given to you by the Palestinian Authority.
Sure. Oh, and the same goes. I mean, I think
Because and I'll say one civilian is a terrible thing.
Yeah.
But it's war.
I think what we're running into, though, and what we're beginning to see problems with is there is an element in the Christian community that are starting to buy part of the narrative of, Israel's murdered children. Israel's done. It's like, wait. Where are you? I have they done wrong? Have they murdered kids? Maybe it's happened.
Yeah.
Okay. But it wasn't something that was done intentionally.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. You were in war. Sometimes people do crazy things in war. And sometimes, especially, and I can't imagine the restraint that it takes these men and women who are going into those areas to not abuse to not fire an extra round.
Yeah.
Because of the anger. I mean, you've just watched your sister or your husband, how many of them in one day had family members? And you remember the Jewish community, it's large, but it's not huge.
Yeah. Well, and I'll tell you that just from a warfare standpoint, if after 9/11, the people say, "Oh, it's been enough. It's enough now. It's enough now. Stop." That's kind of the argument. Like, this is too much. This is too much. Eradicating Hamas is, I've listened to a guy named Cenk Uygur. He's a far left wing guy, and I listened to him, and anyway.
It's important to do that, though.
It is.
I do it all the time. To hear the voices.
Do it all the time.
Know.
Yep. I have to know what everybody is saying.
Right, and they're valid points.
Yep.
So it's important.
It is. But I will say that, they killed 1,300, and now Hamas says that they've killed whatever the number is, 10,000, 15,000, not to discount any of them, but it's just, you never know the number, the true number. But that would be like us saying, okay, on 9/11, we lost over 3,000 people. We need to go to Afghanistan, or we need to go to Pakistan, or we need to go technically to Saudi Arabia, but we need to go and take the life of 3,000 people and come home.
Yeah, and stop there.
Right. Because we have to have a proportionate, equal response.
It's got to be tit for tat. We can't do more. We can't.
And that's just not how combat works. And I wish, I can't ever explain it to people.
Right.
Like the chaos behind it, all that stuff.
But you imagine, they are literally forecasting and letting them know, we're coming here, you need to leave. Right? They're telling the Palestinians, get out, because we're going to be shelling you this week.
Yeah.
Nobody does that in war. No. They're doing that. And we still, over here anyway, are going to complain about it. Mm-hmm. Right? If those people don't want to die, they need to leave. The casualties of war are happening, I believe, because they're not leaving, and most of that is probably because they're not allowed to leave.
That's exactly
and that's the sad truth.
Yeah.
Nobody's talking about it hardly, that Hamas is keeping them there because they want the death count. Mm-hmm. Again, it goes back to, like Roseanne said, these people don't care about human lives. They don't care about humanity.
No, it's not. It is not important. And now, at the risk of getting canceled, there are certain people in that part of the world who value human life to such a low level that it would shock people out there.
Yeah.
It would absolutely shock you
except
how
for
little they care about
except for their own.
their life. Oh yeah, their own life.
Their own life
yes.
is one thing, but the life of a special needs person that they'll strap a bomb on and
Or
say,
that
"Hey,
they
go."
will convince.
Right.
That the
I mean, the
people,
stories that you've heard, that
dude.
you might have witnessed. I'm not sure, but
the people that manipulate, illiterate populations, people who, and it's no fault of their own, it's just the way that it is, right?
yeah,
That are poverty stricken, that are only getting their information from one source, and that one source manipulates them to do horrible things because that one source of knowledge and information and guidance and wisdom is telling them that their sole purpose in life is to sacrifice their own life. That person's not going to do it.
yeah,
No.
not me.
I'm not going to
I'm
do
needed.
it. But if you want to be, I'm important.
Right,
Right.
You might not have
Much
heard
like
this.
Klaus Schwab. I'm important.
Right.
And Bill Gates, he needs his plane. I need
Yeah,
to do this because I'm important. But you all, we're going to try this out on you.
right. You're not going to have this, but I need it because.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's awful, and it is. Going back to that video at the beginning, I love to see normal people in the celebrity arena, right, that are coming to this conclusion that something is wrong here. This isn't right.
Yeah.
And the more voices, you have two that are saying it, in those two, Tucker Carlson and Roseanne Barr, are saying it. But those are two very, very loud voices. And I was always taught that to show people Jesus, I know people that would get out and, well, I shouldn't say this. I've only known one person that would get out and Bible thump, so to speak, that would stand on the corner and tell people that they were going to hell if they didn't get their life right with Christ. And it's true, but the success rate on that probably is very low, right?
Very low.
We were taught by Dr. Daryl Geddes, who is a phenomenal pastor, and he taught us in outreach that if we can get people to question the existence of God, that God will reveal himself and give them the answer. Turn it over. Just get them to question it. And so you've got two people right here who are questioning the existence of God, questioning the existence of something evil coming against God, coming against us. They're going to find that answer. And when they do, I don't think they're going to shut up. And that's what we need, is more voices on a global scale that have that kind of a platform, that kind of a reach for God to enlighten them, to share with the world that, hey, these players they're not subhuman. They're beyond human. What they're filled with is not of this world.
Yes.
They might be a person, but the voice that they're hearing and the voice that they're speaking, what's speaking through them, is not them.
Yeah.
It is the enemy of your soul, who wants nothing more than to see the population cut in 3/4, right? So that he can do what he wants to do. The beauty of it is that they're playing right into God's hands. And he wins. And so 2024, I said the year of the weasel. Maybe it's actually the year of the lion, right?
Yeah.
Because if he does come back this year, he's going to set everything in motion, everything straight. Everything gets to the place where it's supposed to be. It's going to take a while, 7 years, right? In particular. And he has to stop it at 7 years because it's going to be so bad. 7 years is his mercy. So if you're left behind and millions of people disappear, it's not because of aliens or that they committed suicide like Epstein. It's simply because Jesus has come and taken people home, right? 7 years, when you go through that time of 7 years, realize that it's going to stop because of God's mercy. That is, and it's going to be real bad.
Oh, it's going to be bad. Yeah.
So, at any rate, we want to spread and start the new year with some good cheer, glad tidings, and hope.
Yeah.
Right? So Jesus is coming. That's glad tidings. Hope. Hope that we don't get canceled so we can have another episode. That's a hope.
That'll be the question.
That
I'll
will
be
be the
interested to see
question.
what the algorithm does with this one.
But I want and challenge the listeners. I was talking to my brother-in-law the other day, and he said he's going to try to read the Bible in a year. It's a tall order.
Yeah.
And I told him I'm not going to do that because I'm one of those, like, I have to read, like I was telling my wife, like it's an admirable task, but for me, it's like if I grab a hold of like 3 verses in a day, I have to, I can't just, I got to dive in. I got to like really look into it. That's just my nature. But I want to challenge you, if you're not somebody that reads the Word, it's a real simple challenge. Just touch it every day for 3 weeks. Just start there. And you'll find yourself after 3 weeks of touching the Word of God, opening it. And you'll find yourself, as long as that habit has developed to get into it, get yourself into the Word of God. Let Him reveal some things to you this year that might change your trajectory, not only with family and friends, but especially with Him. The most important relationship you'll ever have is the relationship with a God who will never leave you or forsake you. He loves you so much that He sent His Son Jesus to die for you. And if you were the only one to ever live, Jesus still would have come. And then, like I said earlier, it would have been you that crucified Him. You know, literally,
Right.
if you were the only one. But all the things had to happen the way that they happened in order for us to be forgiven and for us to be in the family of God. And I just love that image, that picture of Jesus talking to His disciples after His resurrection. And He says, now I'm going to my Father. And He's not only my Father, but He's your Father now because of what I've done. He's now your dad. You can call Him Dad because He sees you as perfect. He sees you, even though you've made all these mistakes. His grace is so huge that He sees you as perfect. And that, I think, is the word to enter into 2024 with. No matter what you've struggled with, no matter what addiction you're struggling with, no matter what relationship you're struggling with, no matter what past mistakes you're struggling with, God sees you as perfect. When you submit yourself to the authority of Jesus, when you believe that He is the Son of God, that He raised Himself from the dead on the 3rd day, when you believe that Christ is coming, God sees you as perfect. In fact, I love this. He keeps no record of wrong in heaven. His book is only of right. So when people are like, well, God's watching and He's going to write it down, it's like, no, man, He's keeping record, right? All right, but He's keeping record of all the great things and all the things that He sees in you and that He loves about you. And, you know, your mistakes, they're mistakes. And the wages that you pay, the sin, the wages of sin being death. And I'll ask you this, and we got to wrap it up, but I'll ask you this. Is there death in heaven? No. The wages of sin being death are the wages that you're going to pay for here. You're going to mess around here, you're going to have your consequences. We like to call them consequences, right? You jump in the fire, you're going to get burned. God's not going to stop that from happening, but you're forgiven, and that's the beauty of it. So I just want to challenge you, friend. Learn to love Jesus because He's always loved you. And that should give you an immense amount of hope, no matter what's coming, no matter what the world looks like, and no matter how many times you've been vaccinated, right?
Yeah.
The V word.
The V word.
Man, God's got you. As long as you believe, put your hope and your faith in Christ, He will never let you down. So, Jared, do you have anything you want to go over before we exit?
No, I think that's a pretty positive note to end on.
That's the best note ever, right?
It is.
That and we got for Christmas, my niece got me red velvet toothpaste, like the cupcakes, the red velvet cupcake, but it's toothpaste. So it's like I get that every night before bed without having to buy a red velvet cupcake, right?
Right.
It's the weirdest.
Minus the calories.
Oh, it is the weirdest thing to brush your teeth with
the red
pure
velvet.
sugar. It tastes like.
I mean, if I'm being perfectly honest, and it was possible, I'd do it with the cupcake.
I would too. I would too. It
I love
it
red
looks like I
velvet.
do.
Oh, I would do it with a cupcake. I had to brush my teeth with that thing.
Oh man. So with my kid Jackson. My 5-year-old's one of those, like you gotta watch it. If he disappears out of your eyesight for a minute, you gotta start listening for cupboard doors and stuff because
yeah.
he is getting into something.
Yep.
And you'll come in and he'll have chocolate all like, what did you do? You get in the chocolate? No.
No.
Rose did, the dog. Rosie did it. She did it. I'm like, okay. But as always, man, braver than the rest. I hope you guys have a great week. If you have any questions or want us to talk about something, I would love to have a suggestion for us to approach.
Yeah.
And so, email us at thebraverthantherest@gmail.com, thebraverthantherest@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. We do write you back, too. So, till next week, Braver Than the Rest, Jared and Jeremy signing off. Blessings.